Hello everyone, this is Charlotte and this is Chatting in Cars. It's a podcast where I talk about random topics pulled out of a plastic bag and hopefully maybe they can entertain you for a bit. Or have you questioning reality. For some reason people seem to want to die today, I don't know why. They keep walking behind my car or walking out. Very interesting. Standing in the road, I don't know why. It seems to be a kamikaze lifestyle we live here in Australia. Anyway, so there's a disclaimer at the start of this podcast because I do swear. And I do talk about some sensitive topics. One of the sensitive topics I might talk about, for example, is today's, which is Peter Pan syndrome. Peter Pan syndrome. You might have felt it already from someone. It's not necessarily a sex/gender-based thing. It's the premise where people don't really want to grow up, don't want to face reality, don't want to face responsibility or anything like that. That might be slightly painful or inconvenient for them, as far as I can see it. But that's me coming from the standpoint that my dad has Peter Pan syndrome, and he still does. In his late 60s now. He has real trouble with growing the fuck up. And thanks to that, my entire childhood has been sort of marred by this inability for a man to grow up. Thank God my mum was not the same, although she was pretty fucking brutal. So I am a bit biased on that account. I really cannot tolerate people who have Peter Pan syndrome. I can't understand why they have it. I suppose it might be something stemming from insecurities or feelings of inadequacy or just being an irresponsible prick. So, yeah. I don't know if you've come across anyone that's got Peter Pan syndrome. Maybe you're better at it, tolerating it than me. I just know that growing up, it made my life a hell. So I'm slightly biased against it. Some people are more understanding. They can say, oh, okay, this person has these issues. This is where they've come from, and so this is why they act this way. And we've got to be more considerate, of course, of these people and their feelings and all this kind of thing. And maybe we can make, accommodations for their habits or the way they are or anything like that. But to me, it's just, I know I got trauma from it, so, brownie points to you if you can, overcome that kind of shit. I don't have a grudge against my dad or anything like that. It's just made my life really fucking awkward now as an adult, because now I'm sitting there holding him as the benchmark for other men. So if he's, shit, every other guy will be judged on that to be. That and my ex-husband, who also had semi-Peter Pan syndrome. I suppose there's varying degrees of it. My dad was as a girl growing up, as a child growing up, I suppose, your dad is your first point of contact when it comes to what a male should be, right? If he's not there, then maybe it's a bit harder because you've got to, formulate based on those around you as to what a male should be. To me, my dad was fucking useless. So that sort of tarred the pathway for the rest of my life with regards to men. And my mum reinforced it, to be honest. She was really, but she was sort of traumatized by the whole experience herself. My dad was physically there, but to her he was just another child. So he sort of infantilized himself, where he promoted his lack of willingness to be responsible. His whack, jeez. His lack of willingness to sort of contribute to the household. He kept starting things and then quitting them. He's a born quitter. Every 2 years or so, he'd start a job, if he managed to get a job, and then he'd quit it. He'd have a tanty. He'd rage quit his employment. Never mind that he'd have 4 kids at home and a wife and a mortgage and all that. But he'd rage quit, and he'd do it out of, ego or, insecurity or something like that. But it would always end up with him and, losing his shit at his boss. And I'd hear the stories of it growing up. And I remember my mum used to have to drive up to Perth to go get him at one point, because he just lost his shit altogether, and he'd locked himself in the office and had like a mini nervous breakdown kind of thing. He'd only been working there for 2 years. I don't know if that was like more psychosis based or just like he just could not fucking handle taking, orders from someone else or something like that. I don't know. As a kid, it baffled me. I know that he had sort of berserker approaches to things. So if anybody sort of disagreed with him, he would be ballistically violent kind of thing. He never actually hurt us, but he would be psychologically fucking us. He used to throw things, scream, and it was loud and aggressive. And it was a tantrum, but it was like an adult male tantrum. And so, because it was so much bigger than us, it was all the more terrifying. You know, this person who's, 3 times your size, loudly screaming at you and spitting in your face and stuff like that. It's hard to be able to have any kind of relationship with a person who does that now. These days, it's just really awkward. Like, if I have to go in a car with him, it's really fucking awkward. I have nothing to say to this guy, but he's there. And we're supposed to just sort of brush it under the rug. It's like, oh, that happened. It's like, yeah, that happened. Now I don't trust men. Thank you. So I know where my distrust of men comes from. That and my ex-husband, who has Peter Pan syndrome, in which, he was a born quitter as well. I suppose that might be based on where I was attracted to him, because he, sort of mimicked my dad in some respect. My ex-boyfriend as well, similar traits. So, I've got to start breaking those fucking cycles, right? So, my ex-husband, serial quitter. Quit everything he ever fucking touched. Uni, he was in the Navy. He started getting some bike license. It was just, if things didn't go his way, or if, it wasn't the format he wanted it to do, he would lose his shit. And he was discharged from the Navy for being deemed volatile. Now, what does that mean, right? Is that him saying, I feel volatile, therefore I want to leave? Or is that him actually doing something and, because I never found out. I just said, oh, you quit the Navy, okay. How did you get discharged? He's like, oh, they called me volatile and I got a medical discharge. I'm like, what does that mean? So I don't even know what that means. It's like, how do I attract these people? So to me, that's just like, are you actually psych issued here, or are you just quitting because you can't be fucked hanging around with it? Because he tried other things as well. He signed up to uni a few times and quit that. He quit a load of jobs. He used to work for his dad as well and quit that. It just seems to be a lot of avoiding responsibility. Bearing in mind that I was, for a large chunk of our marriage, I was the breadwinner. Not that I wanted to be, but I had to be. Because he just wouldn't stick with anything. I supported him because I'm like, okay, this is what you want to do, okay, so I'll help you because I love you and all this stuff. It wasn't love, it was codependence, to be honest. But, you're with someone, you want to support them, right? Even when he started up his boot camps, because he's a PT, or he was a PT when I left him, personal trainer. He started up boot camps where he was earning fuck all, training housewives to do star jumps, some shit like that. It was tragic anyway. But it was something he wanted to do, so I supported him. So I'm like, okay, so I don't mind taking the hit financially because you want to do your passion, so we'll do that. Which was stupid because I became a doormat. I became the Wendy. And there is a position for people in the relationship. It doesn't have to be the male's the Peter Pan and the woman's the Wendy. It can be the other way around. It's wherever someone is taking the majority of the hits to enable a childlike person to not grow up. If I can summarize it in that point. I was the Wendy. My mum was the Wendy. My nanny was not the Wendy. My granddad was the Wendy for her. So it's not sex-based, it's not gender-based. But it's always a sort of duality of one person rescuing the other person, or carrying the other, or enabling the other person to half-ass their life to keep the show running. With my ex-boyfriend, I was the Wendy. I think that sort of might be stemming from the fact that my mum was the model. My parents' relationship sort of set the tone for how my siblings and I approach relationships. What is normal? And it's only later in life that I started actually questioning that shit. So my mum is perpetually the Wendy. She's here to rescue Peter Pan and to keep him grounded and to do like what she needs to do the work. You ever watch Peter Pan, the cartoon, Disney? Yeah, that shit. She's here to keep this shit running. So I was constantly bailing out this asshole, or these assholes, I should say. He was, hanging around with my dad. And I went to go work for him for a while because at one point he was like, I'm going to start my own business. I'm an accountant. It's like, okay. And I was like, yeah, let's go fucking do this. I'll come and man your front desk. And we can keep it going. But then he'd constantly bail on that. So I'd be manning the front desk and he'd be saying to me, tell my clients I'm not here, or I'm unwell, or I'm working, or I'm busy, or can you reschedule this? And it was constantly just avoiding work or avoiding interactions with people that would need work done. which I found to be infuriating. And I only worked for him for a couple of years or so because it was intense. I had to keep bailing him out. I mean, I was his daughter. Why am I bailing this person out? It was constant irresponsible. You find that you can't rely on them for anything. You can't trust them for anything because you know they're just not going to be there to catch your fall, which is infuriating. And I say it now. I mean, I know we all want to be the nice person, but really, fuck these people. Leave them. Leave them. Because they will just leech you of your resources and your sanity at the same time. No one is ever that incapable that they need someone to be that codependent on. Okay? If you can manage to establish yourself as an independent adult, individual, autonomous adult, not only that, you can carry someone in the process, so you're carrying two people now. They can do that too. They just don't wanna. Okay? That's just being plain fucking lazy. When I think of relationships, sorry, I'm still slurring, my speech is going, I'm tired. When I think about relationships, it should be an even, not evil, even, give and take. It should be equal. People should be contributing both sides. And I'm not talking about one person has to have the same level of financial wage as the other. Some people are going to be earning more, some people are going to be learning less. But if you're making the less, you make up the difference with something else, right? Growing up, my dad was in and out of work. He wasn't stable. He wasn't mentally stable either. He was not helping my mother parent at all. He was physically present, and for him that was apparently enough. Even though when he wasn't sleeping, he was being a fucking berserker. So that's my memories of dad. That's the legacy he's going to leave me when he dies, you know? It's like, what do you remember of your dad? He was loud and violent. And then he slept. And then he ate. And then he was loud again. So it's not something I would want to pass on to my kids if I ever have any or anything like that. Not that I want to. We got to think about what kind of, reality we want our kids to have of us. What version of us. Like, I know my granddad Fred was awesome. He was incredibly hardworking, incredibly resilient. He was a very warm, nice man. Reminded me of Fred Astaire. Very classy. That's the kind of legacy I would want to pass down to people. It's like, how are you remembered as this good fucking person? Like a really good, solid fucking person. When I think about my granddad Bob, he was a manipulative, horrible, evil bastard. We were all kind of glad that he went, to be honest, because he was just full-on nasty. It's like, I don't... And he semi-had Peter Pan syndrome. He wasn't as bad as my dad, but he was in and out of relationships. He couldn't hold one down because he was just constantly fucking around, you know? It's like, one of his best girlfriends I remember, and he still had girlfriends right up into his 70s, 80s. One of his best ones was this lovely woman called Coral, and she was gorgeous, little old lady. She was a beautiful, warm person. She was really nice, and she'd do nice things for you and speak to you nicely, things like that. But he fucked it up because he couldn't fucking commit. And he couldn't commit because he was constantly thinking about his own ego and what he could get out of someone, and he fucked her over, basically. She got fed up of it and told him to fuck off. It's Peter Pan syndrome where he doesn't want to fucking grow up. There's a lot of it in people these days as well. Sort of wanting to live this perpetual childhood. And you can have a second childhood. I had a shit first childhood, so I gave myself a second childhood. So you go to my house, you'll find things like stuffed toys and stuff like that. All the things I didn't get growing up, I got as an adult because I feel like I missed out on something there, so I gave it to myself as an adult. But I don't sit on those. I don't say, I'm still a kid and this is what I'm going to do and I'm not going to face any kind of responsibility or anything like that. I know I've still got bills to pay. I've got other people's kids to look after. I've still got to keep my body healthy and clean, all these kinds of things. So you step up and you work with both. You create this duality in this existence where you are the child, but you're also an adult. And to be honest, in my mindset, you've got three entities inside you. You've got a masculine, a feminine, and a kid. The inner kid is all the things that is your innocence, that you can just say, I remember when, and it's reflective of your childhood as well. I had to reinvigorate or rebirth my inner child because it just got so fucked up in my childhood. My masculine is representative of all the things that I couldn't get as a child, as a little girl growing up. I didn't have the father figure I needed. My brother took the place of my father. My brother is astoundingly good. He's a fantastic dad as well. I cannot speak highly enough of him. He took the place of the hole my dad left. Even though my dad was physically present, He was fucking useless. So my brother stepped into that position and he took it like duck to water. If he didn't, then he made it really look easy. So I applaud that guy. I didn't have a female figure, so my mum was pretty harsh growing up. So my feminine comes from, you know, pop culture, or it's women I've talked to on the job, or, you know, watching my older sister with her kids, and everything that's feminine about me is bits that I've found reflective of society in which I live. I could have taken the shit bits, like I've still got my mum's aggression towards getting shit done. That's in me and I can't get rid of that. I know that much. But I don't have her violent harshness, which I'm glad of, to be honest. I've got my grandma's, you know, that sort of Irish balls, you know. The women have got more balls than the men in that culture. I don't doubt it. Same with Italians, right? The women know their shit. And I picked that up from my grandma, and I'm proud of that. But I still have my child element to me. I'm still, you know, parts of me still not grown. Like, I know, and it could be from the autism, it could be from not being experienced enough to understand what's going on there. I know I lack maturity with some things. I'm happy to admit that. But I don't do the Peter Pan syndrome where I completely fuck off any sense of responsibility and rely codependently on someone else to handle it for me. I'm 37, for fuck's sake. My ex-boyfriend's 40. He was doing that to me. I'm going, not only is this incredibly irresponsible, it's embarrassing at your age. You should be handling this shit. I don't have to tolerate this shit. And luckily, given my circumstances, I had experience of someone who was like that. I had it for 16 years. I had it growing up. And I got to this guy and I'm like, I'm not fucking doing this. I'm not getting sucked into another arrangement where I wipe your ass. Or someone else's ass. Unless it's like a fucking kid, dude. I'm just not. You're a grown-ass adult. Handle your shit. And he couldn't understand why I didn't just go with it. I'm going, dude, what next? You're going to want me to breastfeed you next? Fuck off. You know? It was one of the main problems I had with him, was his inability and unwillingness to fucking handle his own shit. And he tried it on. He tried the pity, he tried the guilt, he tried the, I can't do this. And you're like, yes, you fucking can. I have, you can, you will, sort of thing. It's like, stop fucking around. And in the end, I just left because I'm like, oh, no, I'm not doing this. He kept trying to play on my emotions and get pity out of me. And that's the way you sort of cajole me, connive me into doing things for you and enabling you to be a lazy fuck. And I'm just not doing it. So, you know, I don't know if you're a guy or a girl, but if you ever get in that situation, don't fucking enable them, because they will suck the life out of you. If not the life, then, you know, like your morals, your fucking money, your everything. They want you to do shit for them. It is a form of codependency. It's not healthy. At some point, even like in cultural terms, you have to have your rite of passage. You have to grow the fuck up. At some point, you might be subject to raising a child. Then in that case, who's the fucking child? Because you can't be. You can't have a kid raising a fucking kid. One of you has to grow the fuck up, and the kid's just chronologically enable. You know, it's a baby. You're gonna have to be the grown-up, right? So I don't understand why people are still like this. I think there's something fundamentally wrong in their development, and I do think development doesn't stop at childhood. It carries on to adulthood, and we're all progressing at different levels, in different ways. So what do? Do you enable them to be an arsehole? You say they're there and it's okay? Or do you say, look, if this is what you're gonna be, I can't change you, it's not my place to change you, but I can take myself away from this situation because it's not for me. This is not gonna be my future. I don't agree with this, and I'm not doing it again. So that's what I had to do in the end. It was a head over heart decision. I feel I did have affection for him, partly when I left. But I tell you what, every time you end up wiping some other person's ass, you do lose respect for them. I lost respect for him because he kept trying to get me to do it, and he got more and more conniving and manipulative with it as well. Particularly when he started trying to play on my emotions. I'm going, I've got evidence of you being a real asshole. Why would I enable this? Why would I reward shit behavior? It fascinated me that he even tried it. So I'm guessing maybe it's something that he's had from childhood, where his mum's constantly bailed him out or something like that. It's the, you know, quintessential mummy's boy. My mummy did this, so, you know, and he's been passed from girl to girl to girl. He's had 7 to 8 relationships. It started with his mum. His first girlfriend was older than him by a significant amount. So I can understand there's still that mother dichotomy there, or dynamic. And then he got passed from girl to girl to girl. And all of them, as far as I can remember, because I've known him for a while, were sort of mummy figures. They would do things for him and he'd sit on his ass and do fuck all. And at this point, at 40, you have to grow the fuck up, dude, because no one's going to have your back forever. No one. Whether you're married up until you're in your 80s, at some point, one of you fuckers is going to die and one of you might get left alone to handle your shit on your own. So might as well learn the skills now. I think it's just a direct lack of willingness to participate as an adult. There is more research I have to do into it. Of course, I want to understand this more because I'm not going to just leave it hanging and assume. I don't like generalized approach to things. I like to get to the nitty gritty. So of course I'm going to look into it more, but I tell you what, I'm not going to take another one of these fuckers. This lack of immaturity and ability or willingness to handle your own shit is considered a huge cock block for me at this point. I cannot handle it. I don't want to. I mean, I feel like I'm raising someone else's son at this point. It's like, you've done a fucked up job as a parent. Now I have to do the rest, apparently. So it's like, no, I'm not doing this. And it goes both ways. It's not just a female thing. It's a male thing as well. Guys will have to bail out these girls who are essentially gold diggers. I don't agree with the fact that some girls will go into relationships, not bother getting a job or anything like that, or handling their own shit, and assume that the guy, even though men have, they are capable of being providers, doesn't mean they should fucking have to be, right? No one should have to be. There is no, because you've got a dick, you have to do this anymore. There's none of that. This isn't the 50s. No, we're not doing that. You can say it's old values, but at the same time, girls were in the home at the time. If they did work, it was very light work, it was low paid work, and so they tended to stay home once they had kids. The roles don't exist anymore. Just because you got an innie doesn't mean you get to sit on your ass and do nothing. Bearing in mind, my people came from working class, so we never had a chance to sit on our ass and do nothing. If you didn't get up and do something, regardless of whether you had kids or not, you were going to die. Starve, be homeless, some shit like that, be in a workhouse. So I find I'm annoyed with this Peter Pan syndrome, and it comes from both sides, both sexes. I can't imagine how it could be helpful to anyone in the long term. So I've just pulled up, I'm sorry, I know I'm ranting about this right now, it frustrates me. But the thing to take away from this is, don't put yourself in a situation where you are stuck with a Peter Pan. You don't have to be. If they're not willing to change and grow the fuck up to suit the needs and the context in which they exist, fuck them off. Save yourself the trauma and the pain and the suffering. We all want to be nice people, I get that, and you're a fantastic, beautiful person, but these people will take advantage of you if you let them. They leech. They really do. It's like, if they can take the easy way out, they fucking will, okay? It's not your responsibility to raise someone else's fucked up kid, okay? Unless it is an actual fucked up kid. It's not your fault, darling. You tried to do the nice thing, you tried to do the right thing, you tried to be sweet and helpful and caring. I know, because guys do it too, and girls do it, and everyone tries to do it because we're designed and programmed to believe this is what we should be doing, looking after each other, especially the underdog, right? Some people will exploit that. They need to fuck off. It's like, if you cannot, as an adult, by the time you're my age, 37, at the very fucking least, if not earlier, some people can do it really fucking early, like teens, like late teens. As soon as they hit 18, they are good to go. I admire those people, but it's usually trauma-based, right? You gotta stand on your own 2 fucking feet and handle it, okay? That was part of our westernized rite of passage cultural thing. 18, you are an adult, you will handle your shit. That is it. I don't know why we're perpetuating this culture of, like man children, or what's the female equivalent? I don't know. But it's not good. It's like, I mean, we're saying that the guys are more in touch with their feelings, but to what degree, where they're now, sacrificing, they're infantilizing themselves. I love that they got feelings, yes. I love that they're more sensitive, yes. But that doesn't mean you get to neglect and negate your responsibilities. You still have to perform. You still have to contribute. You're a man, for fuck's sake. And the hardest thing as a woman is when you have to take on both the role of the man and the woman, because it's exhausting. I've done it, twice at least now. I don't want to be the fucking man. I want to be the woman. This is what I identify with, given that I've got an innie and a uterus and shit, right? So it's a hard fight when you're carrying someone, as a parent as well, to this adult child who just does not want to grow the fuck up. If you find yourself questioning whether you are one of these adult children, maybe you got Peter Pan syndrome, I want you to consider what you've accomplished with your life. Not that these are benchmarks for your reality. You don't have to have the house, the family, the car, and all that shit. These are just, it's, down to interpretation. But at the same time, if you are unemployed, living in your parents' house, your mum's doing your washing, your dad provides you money for your meals and shit like that, you gotta question what you're doing to put yourself in this position, because even saying that, you're at the mercy of whatever your parents decide for you. So why wouldn't you want your independence? You don't get to bring anyone over without their consent, stuff like that. It's like you haven't grown the fuck up. Okay? People like that need to stop relying on other people so heavily. It's not good for you. You need to get out of there. Okay? You're an adult. You are capable. I have every absolute faith that you are capable. You just need to be given the experiences and the circumstances to prove that you're capable, and you can do it. Okay? You need to get out there and try. That's if you're in that Peter Pan situation. It's like, if you're a Wendy, fuck them off. I know that's blunt, but I'm so past bailing people out. I'm nearly 40 myself, and it's been non-stop. So, if you're cuddly and warm, and I can understand that you might want to help these people, but understand that there is an element that they might be exploiting your kindness, and they will take it as weakness, because you're willing to give it freely. And they should give it freely. We should all be looking after each other that way, but these fuckers, they will exploit you if you let them, okay? Now, I know you're a cuddly, lovely, warm person, but you don't have to take that, darling. It's do no harm, take no shit. Remember that, okay? It's not your job to raise a shit adult, okay? You are the adult. You've done your job, okay? Let it go, okay? So on that note, I'm going to leave it there. I hope that wasn't me just sitting there lecturing people and telling them off. As a teacher, I find it frustrating that, all this stuff that we've given them in the classroom to teach them resilience and independence and stuff like that, even in some adults, is, pointless. You sit there and go, how the fuck are you still doing this now? I hope you have a great day, okay? It's beautiful here in Australia at the moment. The sun's out, it's coming into spring. We got some hot weather coming, I can tell. I can feel it searing through the window and car door thing, okay? So take it easy if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. I hope you enjoy your autumn, winter coming, hopefully. And I will chat to you tomorrow.